It's Pete from Cheap Homesteading, and I'm in the garage today, and I'm going to get some of my chainsaws sharpened up. This Saturday is going to be the first day I get out to really cut some firewood, like a whole day at it. So I want them all sharpened up, ready to go. This first chainsaw, I'm going to sharpen it with the Princess Auto 12-volt chain sharpener. Another video I showed you, I picked up a 12-volt Princess Auto chain sharpener, and we're going to set it up, get it ready to sharpen my chain. So the first thing you have to do is set your little guide bar. You'll see there's a little slotted screw right there, so it'll allow it to adjust. So this will be closer or farther. So we got to set it up for our chain. We're going to loosen these screws. Okay, so this is going to be hard for you guys to see, but this is the portion that rests on the edge of the tooth. And you adjust the little screws and the height of this plate until there is about 80% below the cutting edge of the tooth and 20% above. With that ratio, it gives you a little bit of a chisel action. If it's up too high, this is going to be a blunt edge, which you don't want. So I think I got it adjusted real good, and we're going to start sharpening the chain. Here you got your degree lines. They are marked at 25, 30, 35. My chains are all cut at 30 degrees. So you have this line, the 30-degree line, parallel with the bar. You have to go back and forth because you don't want to grind it in one spot because it'll leave like a small line in your grinding stone. So you have to go back and forth, but you have to make sure that you keep that line parallel. Okay, so basically you have to go around and try to find the worst tooth. I think this one here is the worst tooth. You want to find a tooth that has the most damage. I think that's it. Okay, we're back to it. So what I'm going to do, I've marked that tooth. We're going to wear safety glasses and gloves. So you sharpen it all from one side of the chain. So basically you're going to sharpen and then sharpen the other angle. Sharpen the other angle. That is the best way, and making sure that you kind of go back and forth because, as I say, you don't want to make like a little low spot on your grinder head. I think that was 6 grinds I had to get this one till it had a good edge, so now I'm going to have to do 6 grinds on all of them. You do want to try to keep the same amount of grinds each one. For me, it doesn't seem to bother me too much. I'm cutting firewood. I'm not cutting long stretches. So I pretty well will go until, try to keep it in a reasonable level, but I make sure that it has a good edge on each tooth. This chain's really bad. I must have hit a stone or something with it because there's even a few that you just look at it and go, wow. So the chain is nearing the end of its life anyways. The tooth. I'm pretty happy with the 12-volt chain sharpener. It works great, runs great, and the result is awesome. Like when you touch the edge of those teeth, you know it's sharp. You can feel it grab your finger, and that's what you want. So there's no doubt in my mind that these things are going to cut great. But I did have one issue when I was sharpening my chain. The first chainsaw I sharpened with, the little stone blew apart. So the stones are cheap. These are pretty much identical to the Oregon ones. So I'm going to order some Oregon stones, which I am assuming are going to be better quality than this. So I'll just order some better quality stones for it. So even though they cost me $10, this thing cost me $25. It's going to be $35. That's not bad for a good sharpener. And I do like the result. So now we're going to bring down the rakers, and this chainsaw is sharpened up. Okay, this came from Princess Auto too. It's a little gauge to check your rakers. This little band here sits on the top of the tooth, and if your raker doesn't hit when you do this, you know that the raker is set okay. You don't have to adjust it each time. And then you just file it until it is just below. But this chain is just the right height. You can just see it. Okay, so we're just going to keep going, making sure all the rakers are good. I'm assuming they're all good now because I've checked half of them and they're all... So the chainsaw is sharp. I know my rakers are good. And yes, I call them rakers. You know what? People get all bent out of shape if you call rakers. They think you should call them depth gauges. And honestly, my whole life I've called them rakers. Every logger around here I know calls them rakers. There's so many people on the internet that call it rakers. That rakers is actually a used term. The first time I've ever heard someone use the term depth gauge for what I call a raker is probably in the last 10-15 years. It can be a more accurate term, but you know what? It's a raker. It's always been a raker. So I'm going to keep calling it a raker. So anyways, there's my little rant. So I'm pretty happy with the sharpening job. The chain is sharpened, the rakers are set, and we're ready to cut some firewood. So you guys have a good one.